Hello, welcome to EPG Pathshala program in linguistics. I am Pramod Pandey, Center for Linguistics, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Today we are going to discuss module 24 in the course Introduction to Phonetics and Phonology. This module is centered around the notion of the syllable, a very important notion in phonological theory. The notion of the syllable has been found to be of crucial importance in the discussion of phonotactics. Phonotactics is the area of phonemics which covers the structural characteristics of sequences. For example, what consonants begin and end a word. In English, for example, when you begin a word with more than one consonant, you find that there are restrictions on what consonants can begin a word. For example, the first consonant should be an S. If that is so, then you can have any other consonant. There is an alternative. You can have any consonant in the beginning. In the second position, you have to have either R or L or W or Y. Now, this is a restriction that is found to be imposed for English. There are languages where the restrictions may vary, as you know, in many Indian languages and also many Austroasiatic languages. Two consonants are not allowed to begin a word and sometimes to end a word. So that's a restriction on more than one consonant occurring in a word. Now, this whole notion of what segments can co-occur is known as phonotactics. What we find is that the syllable provides a very useful concept for the description of phonotactic generalizations in languages. We then move on to understand the notion of the syllable, what are all the various types of the syllable, and what are all the concepts that are used in the discussion of the syllable. What is a syllable? A syllable is a unit which is larger than a segment and which is used in grouping the segments with each other. What we find is that given a word, let us say America, we find that there are segments such as A, M, E, R, E, K, A, about 7 segments. Now, given the sequence of segments, there is no way to tell which segment in the middle is closer to, is it the preceding sound or the following sound. For example, in America, when we look at the sound A, it occurs between M and R. Now, it appears there is no way for us to tell us which segment it is closer to. But when we pay attention to the syllable and break this word into syllables such as A, Me, Ri and Ka, then we know that A is closer to M than to Ra. Now, it is thus the syllable which helps us to group sounds together in articulation and perception. How do we assign syllable structures to words? The first thing we do to start with is to transcribe the words phonetically. Once the phonetic transcription is done, then we try to divide the word into the syllable structures. For example, we take a look at the words man, count, very, unity, America, boxing. Take a look at the phonetic transcriptions of the words given on the screen. You notice that we use these phonetic symbols for the sounds. Once the phonetic transcription is achieved, then when there is more than one syllable in a word, then we divide it into syllables. For example, man and count have only one syllable, but all the other words such as very, unity, America and boxing have more than one syllable. Unity has 3 syllables, America has 5 syllables, boxing and very have 2 syllables. Now, in carrying out syllable division in words, we should notice that there are certain letters which create a confusion and which have to be transliterated into the phonetic transcription. Otherwise, there is confusion. For example, the letter U, as you find in unity, is transcribed as a consonant. It is not, although the letter is a vowel, but its pronunciation is that of a consonant. Similarly, in the last consonant in unity, Y is a consonant, but it is pronounced as a vowel. Then the letter X, as in boxing, actually stands for two consonants, K and S, and there is a syllable division between them as you see it on the screen. It is thus extremely important for us to transcribe the words first before starting to do the syllabic division. Now we turn to discuss the main concepts and terms in the description of syllables. One of the most common terms used is that of the distinction between syllables as open syllables and as closed syllables. Open syllables and closed syllables are described with the examples thus. On your screen you notice the words such as go and high. These words end in vowels. The words eat, ball and mold, all of them end in a consonant. In order to be able to make explicit the distinction between open syllables and closed syllables, it is found convenient to use the symbols V for vowel and C for consonant. Thus, the open syllables go and high are shown to have the structure CV in both cases. G and H are C and O and I are V. In the words eat, ball and mold, the structures are CVC and CVCC. So we have eat and ball, there is one consonant after the vowel. In mold, we have two consonants after the vowel. Thus, the structures are two then, CVC for eat and ball and CVCC for mold. This way we describe the syllable structures of languages. The next thing we do in describing the syllable structures of languages is trying to arrive at a common syllable structure, at a template of syllable structure, which is called canonical syllable structure. Now let's see how we arrive at the canonical syllable structures in languages. So let us look at the syllable structures in the language Korku. What you have on the screen are these words with their CV structures and their glosses. Take a look at the word sister-in-law. That has only one segment, a V, a vowel. The word water has a consonant before it, so we have CV. The word for one, mya, has two consonants, m, c, and v. The word for wash has no consonant before the vowel and a single consonant after the vowel, so it's VC. The word for all is CVC. This way, when we proceed, we come to words which have more than one syllable. For example, the word for yesterday, cold in. Now, there it is that we have to divide the syllable. So we get CVC and CVC, two syllables of the same structure. When we try to take a look at all of the possible syllable structures in the languages, what we find is that there is a kind of an abstract structure that occurs before us. This structure is described like this. You have a vowel in the center that is an obligatory element. it has to appear. That's what you find in all the words. All the words have a vowel. And in addition, there are optional elements. There may be one consonant before it, maximally two consonants before it. Similarly, there may be one consonant after the vowel and maximally two consonants after the vowels. So given this structure, CC, V, CC, of which both the consonants in the beginning and in the end are optional, we can account for all the syllable structures that are found in the language. Now this is how the canonical syllable structures in languages are described. We have examples of some other languages with their canonical syllable structures. For example, Ho has CVC, Zhuang has CRVC, Gondi again has CVC, Konda has CVCC, Dogri has CCVCC like Korku, Kashmiri has CRVCC, Dharma has CYVCC, and Lepcha has CCCVC. So Lepcha allows three consonants before the vowel and only one at the end. The use of the letters R and J, for example, are for the specific consonants that can occupy the position of the second consonant in the languages Dharma and Zhuang. So sometimes when we have more specific consonants to mention, then we use the symbols for them. In other circumstances where we have a general description which requires us to state any consonant, we use the word C. So canonical syllable structures are then described in terms of CV and also specific consonants to represent the restrictions in the languages. Let's now go on to discuss the syllable structures found in languages. We have on the screen the syllable structure that has already been discussed in module 22. Thus, a syllable has a tripartite structure. It has a nucleus which is obligatory and has onset and codas before and after the nucleus as optional elements of the syllable. We take a look at some words from English to illustrate what we mean by these elements of the syllable structure. We have these words a, go, bag, on, product. We see that the word a has just a nucleus, the word go has an onset and the nucleus, the word bag has an onset and nucleus and coda, the word on has a nucleus and coda, the word product has an onset, nucleus and the coda. You will have guessed now that here most of the sounds that occupy the position of the nucleus are the vowel, and those which occupy the position of the onset and the coda are consonants. Although we have single units such as O and C to represent onsets and codas, we should recognize that the structures of the onsets and codas can be simple or complex, as we see on the screen. In the representation of the word product, you notice that the first syllable pro has only a nucleus, whereas the second syllable duct has an onset, nucleus and a coda. The onset in the first syllable is complex, and the coda in the second syllable is complex. Apart from the notions of the onset, nucleus and coda, it was later suggested that we need another concept called the interlude. What is an interlude? An interlude is a consonant whose syllabic constituency is uncertain. That means, given a consonant between two vowels, there is no certainty with regard to which vowel it goes to. The notion was introduced by Pike and Pike. This notion has proved to be very useful. So although it was introduced in the 1940s, it continues to be used today. The term that is preferred is ambisyllabicity. That means a consonant which is an interlude consonant is ambisyllabic. It can belong to both syllables. As we find, for example, for the pronunciation of the word sitting, as we do in Indian English, and its pronunciation in American English is something like sitting. The reason why we have this middle sound t being pronounced as something like ra is, we are told, because it belongs to both the vowels, the e as well as ing. So it connects to both the syllables, the preceding syllable and the following syllable. In a way, ambisyllabic consonants thus show overlapping of articulation of the onset of the following syllable on the coda of the preceding syllable. You will learn later that the notion of ambisyllabicity is very useful in work on speech synthesis, for example. If you want to get the correct result regarding the pronunciations of sounds, then for pronunciations such as sitting in American English, we have to show them to be connected with both the syllables, preceding and following syllable. The next stage in the development of our understanding about the syllable structure was the introduction of the idea of rhyme directly constituting a syllable. So in place of a syllable having tripartite division straight away, such as onset, nucleus and coda, we came to have a binary distinction. So a syllable was seen to be consisting of an onset and a rhyme. The rhyme in turn consists of a nucleus and a coda. So there is now a hierarchical structure assigned to the syllable compared to a more flat structure of the syllable. Now, we notice now, we see how the word product has been represented in a revised manner in the onset and rhyme system. So we have pro as onset and rhyme, and duct as onset and rhyme. The rhyme has a single nucleus or in the first syllable, and the rhyme in the second syllable has the nucleus a. The coda is complex at the end. So this structure now is more hierarchical. Now, this hierarchical structure is found to be useful for many phenomena in languages. We will look at them one by one. First of all, we take a look now at the notion of syllabic consonants. What is a syllabic consonant? A syllabic consonant is a consonant that occupies the position of the nucleus of a syllable, as you see in the representation of the word bottle in English. Notice that in the representation of the word bottle, we have identical syllable structure, onset rhyme, onset rhyme. The rhyme consists of nuclei. The difference between the two syllables is that the position of the nucleus of the first syllable ba is occupied by a vowel o, and the position of the nucleus in the second syllable to is occupied by a consonant, namely l. Now we can easily see how a consonant can be a syllabic consonant. It is syllabic consonant because it occupies the position of the nucleus. So there is a distinction between consonants which occupy the position of the onset and the coda, and consonants which occupy the position of the nucleus. It is the consonants that occupy the position of the nucleus that are syllabic consonants. Most of these are sonorants, that means nasals, laterals especially. One of the justifications given for the hierarchical structure of a syllable as consisting directly of onset and rhyme, and the rhyme consisting of nucleus and coda, was that this way of representing syllables can capture the idea of the weight of syllables. Thus, languages have, in general, two degrees of weight, one light and the other heavy. Usually, light syllables are those which have a single vowel, a short vowel, that occupies the position of the nucleus. And a heavy syllable is one which has either a long vowel or a vowel followed by a consonant. So, the notion of heavy syllables is associated with branchingness of the rhyme, and the notion of a light syllable consists of non-branchingness of a rhyme. Thus, it is the rhyme and its ability or its feature of branching versus non-branching that helps explain the distinction between heavy syllables and light syllables. Another important concept in the notion of the syllable is the notion of the mora. Now, in place of the onset and rhyme, some phonologists have suggested that you can have the unit mora directly being connected with the notion of the syllable. So the syllable need not be seen as consisting of onset and rhyme, rather as simply consisting of mora. Now this is useful for languages in which the quantity of a syllable plays an important role, such as Japanese. It is also useful for describing the weight of syllables in languages. Thus, for example, a light syllable is shown to have a single mora, a short vowel, and a heavy syllable is shown to have two morae, either a vowel followed by a consonant or two vowels or a diphthong. Look at the representations of these on the screen. We have two kinds of languages shown here. Those in which the light syllable is CV and the heavy syllable is CVV or CVC, as we discussed. Now languages such as English, Hindi, Punjabi, these languages exemplify this twofold division. But there are languages in which the light syllable is not just a CV, but it can be a CVC. And the heavy syllable is obligatorily only CVV. A language such as Bangla is of that kind. Now, the light-heavy distinction in languages can be shown to be based on mora, and thus you can show in which language which syllable can be shown to be a light syllable and which one can be shown to be a heavy syllable. Now this can be represented in terms of the syllable structures that are assigned. Thus in a language such as Bangla, a CVC, the C, the coda does not count as mora, and only when there is a long vowel that we have a heavy syllable, so we get two mora. Both ways of representing the syllable, that is the mora and onset and rhyme, are in current use today, and it depends on the nature of the phenomenon being described. There is no choice between the two as things stand today. We now turn to the issue of syllabification. In module 23, that is the last module, we looked at syllabification while discussing the issue of the types of phenomena that are syllable structure based. Now, we looked at some of these criteria for syllabification. For example, if there is a single vowel, then the first vowel goes with the following consonant. If there is the word begins with a consonant, then it goes with the following vowel. When there there is a vowel between two consonants, then the vowel goes with the following consonant, etc. When there are two consonants, then there is a division between them, and the first consonant goes with the preceding vowel, the second consonant goes with the following vowel. We looked at all these things. There we also noted that in syllabification there are, of course, universal criteria, universal rules, but there are also language specific rules. For example, in English you have structures which are which have restricted occurrence. For example, in English we notice that two consonant clusters could be only two types. We noticed it in this module earlier on. So so a syllable can begin either with a s and any consonant, or with any consonant and a r, l, or w. Similarly, if there are three consonants, then the first consonant must be a s, the second one any, and the third one can be r, l, w here. Now, these restrictions on what consonants can occur as the onset have a fallout on the syllable structure division. That's in English. When you get two consonants of any type, that is, you have two consonants of a general type, then you have a division between them, like acting. So you have ak and ting. But if you get consonants of the S plus any consonant structure, or a consonant plus r, l, w structure, then there is no syllable division between them. The two consonants go together, as we find, for example, in the words on the screen here. We have words such as style, speak, swear, slow, play, pray, quiet, cure, representing the restrictions on the consonants that can occur in the onset position. And for three consonant clusters, words such as spring and splash. Now, given words such as attend, unnoticed, the division of syllable structure is like in most languages. A single consonant between two vowels goes with the following vowel, as in attend. Two consonants, there is a division, as in unnoticed. Given a word such as decry, require, and respect, however, in English, there is no syllable division between k and r, or between k and w, or between s and p. So the only way to divide the words into syllables is decry, require, and respect. Syllable divisions such as decry, or reply, or require, or respect are not acceptable in English. Now, this is an interesting point where the native English phonology differs from second language phonology such as Indian English. As speakers of English in India, we normally follow the rules that are found in our own languages, and thus most Indians speaking English will divide the words such as decry as decry, dick and ry, reply as reply, and so on. In the process of syllabification, we also come across the notion of resyllabification. Now, resyllabification takes place when complex words are formed from simple words. So, given a word such as rain, when an ing is added to it, then we find that there has to be a resyllabification of the consonant n there. In the word rain, it occurred at the end of a word, and thus it occupied the position of the coda. But in raining, it occurs between two vowels, and thus it has to be resyllabified as an onset from a coda. So thus, in the word rain, n is a coda, but in the word raining, n is the onset. This is what is meant by resyllabification. That is, a consonant that has a sound which has one syllabic representation in a word when there is a complex word, a longer word formed, then it may be resyllabified. And you have the examples on the screen: rain, raining, plead, pleader, bottle, bottling, etc. Now in bottle and bottling, bottle is a syllabic consonant, but when ing is added to it, in most varieties it becomes non-syllabic, such as bottling. Now, apart from the language-specific considerations in syllabification, we also have some universal principles of syllable structure that phonologists have come to find after investigating the various languages around the world. Two of the universal principles of syllabification are especially accepted and have been found to be playing a crucial role in organizing sound segments into syllable structures. One of them is maximum onset principle. The principle is stated as this: given a sequence of consonants, their syllabification will be such that they occur as onsets rather than as codas. We find this for single consonants. Now, we have a very good explanation for why it is that between two consonants, between two vowels, a consonant goes with the following vowel, because then it occupies the position of the onset. Otherwise, it would have occupied the position of the coda. So languages prefer for consonants to occupy the position of the onset rather than coda. And in languages such as English, where we have two consonant clusters such as s plus another consonant, or any consonant r, l, y, and yet there be no division, both of them going as the onset, again we have an explanation in the principle of maximal onsets, which is also known as the onset first principle. Now the second principle is called the sonority sequencing principle, or SSP for short. It is based on the notion of a sonority scale. A sonority scale, as you see on the screen, is a scale that consists of the arrangement of different groups of sounds as being less to more sonorant. So we have on the screen one of the classifications. We have the geminate stops being shown as the least sonorant, followed by voiceless stops, followed by voice stops, and then fricatives, voiceless fricatives, and then voiced fricatives, then liquids like l, r, then glides, w, y, then vowels or syllabic consonants. We also have proposals for specific sonority scale within these groups. For example, for vowels, we are told e, u is less sonorous than a, o, which are less sonorous than a. Now that is the sonority scale usually accepted by phonologists. Now how does it relate to sonority sequencing principle? The sonority sequencing principle says that as we proceed from the periphery to the nucleus, that is from the onset or from the coda to the nucleus, the sonority of the sounds increases. There is the opposite way to express this. The sonority of segments decreases from the nucleus to the periphery, which means that given a syllable structure, the consonants which occur at the beginning of a syllable and at the end of a syllable are less sonorous than the sounds that occur in the nucleus position of a syllable. For example, we have given a word such as blade, which have A as the nucleus, D as the coda, bl as the onset. Now between b and l, b is a plosive, so it is less sonorous than l, which is liquid. So that's what we have is a stop, a voice stop, followed by liquid, followed by the nucleus. And then further again from the nucleus, you have a stop. So the nucleus, the vowel is the most sonorous, and then the consonants which occur in the onset and coda positions are the less sonorous. Sometimes we have violations of them, apparently. For example, the fricatives which are considered to be more sonorous than plosives are found in many languages to occur before plosives, as in English, for example, speak, and so on. Now there has to be some explanation for this, but by and large, the sonority sequencing principle works as an organizing principle of syllable structures. Thus, given words such as send, bread, quite, it is not possible for speakers of English to accept words such as lbade or bedden. So, given n and d, it is within a syllable, n will occur before d in the coda position. And similarly, given b and l in the onset position, we will find that b will precede l before the vowel. So generally the idea is that the sonority sequencing principle works in most cases for most languages and provides an explanation for how sounds organize themselves, group themselves into a syllable. So students, now we have come to the end of the discussion of the syllable. We saw how important the syllable is, how it has evolved from the notion of the phoneme to the notion of a unit as an organizing principle that helps explain various phenomena in languages. We looked at the typology of syllable structures as open and closed syllables. We saw how the structure of syllable came to evolve from a tripartite flat structure to a hierarchical structure, how the notion of the hierarchical structure was found to be useful in distinguishing syllable weights, and then the introduction of the notion of the mora as constituting syllables. We also looked at how there are both language-specific as well as universal principles that constrain syllable structures in languages and that influence the organization of syllables in words in languages. The reason why we need to pay a special attention to the syllable is that it's not only used in phonology or phonological theory, but it is found to be crucially used in allied disciplines such as neurolinguistics, speech pathology, historical linguistics. Thank you.